Hi guys, thanks for tuning this episode of Nick Egan Times. On this episode, we have an awesome guest. We have Phil Thornalley. Phil is an English producer and songwriter. In 1970s, Phil worked with the Jam and Paul McCartney. In the 1980s, he worked with Ecstasy and Duran Duran, and then joined The Cure. In the 1990s, he co-wrote and produced Natalie Imbriglia's evergreen hit "Torn." In the 2010s, he played bass for Bryan Adams. After decades of making records for other artists, Phil started making his own under Astral Drive. Astral Drive is a combination of seventies recording techniques, impromptu jam sessions with himself, and starry-eyed idealism. It's now been 3 years since Astral Drive's debut release, and now Phil Thornalley raises the bar with a new 11-song follow-up, heavy with soulful harmony vocals, heartfelt singing, lush chords, and optimistic stargazing lyrical themes. Welcome the multi-talented Phil, and thanks for coming on my podcast.
Hey Nick, thanks for having me on. And hello to everyone across the world, especially in Sydney. Woohoo!
There we go. How's it all been going over there, and how's the pandemic too personally and professionally affected you?
It because I'm at the kind of, I guess you could say, the fag end of my career, in some respects, not being the youngest. When the pandemic really hit here in the UK, I was lucky enough to go back to my hometown, and for once the weather was fantastic. So there was this strange, although obviously there was the nightmare of the hospitalizations and the drama and the panic. But at the same time, I was able to kind of, with my partner Julie and our dogs, we were kind of out in the countryside, literally isolated because it's farmland. And I spent every day cycling, and so in many respects, I had that first year, last year, 2020 was actually quite peaceful. And now I'm back in London, and I think we're kind of gearing up for possibly, and I don't know if there'll be another lockdown. I would imagine something pretty dramatic is going to happen again as the cold weather kicks in. That's the feeling I get, that there's a lot of optimism about, maybe we're learning to live with it, but whether or not, I think there's a few more fences to jump over yet. And you still have to, obviously I live in London, as like Sydney, pretty dense, urban, and I still walk down the middle of the street, I try and avoid people. There's a lot of relaxation here of the masking up or whatnot, even on public transport. But people are supposed to wear the mask, but we're discovering that, that personal freedoms, people's own opinions are now coming into play much more. But so it's been a strange couple of years, but professionally, it allowed me to finish recording this other Astral Drive album, because I just suddenly had lots of time, to work on it. And so that's what I did. I concentrated on it, and very pleased with the results. Some respects, all that sunshine that I know you're used to that in Sydney, but over here it's a rare commodity, and that kind of, I felt like that if you like, had a positive effect on the songs, made them kind of very reflect that kind of sunshine, and trying to stay positive in the middle of this, the worldwide pandemic.
Yeah, that's really insightful. Yeah, definitely. All right, let's go back. Let's go back to obviously your story of how it all began for you. So when you were young, tell me about your family and life growing up for you.
When I was, I guess when I was about 12 or 13, I picked up a guitar. My brother had tried playing guitar and didn't persevere with it, and I picked it up and did persevere with it, and immediately started writing songs. It was like I don't know where that came from, but it just happened. I learned 3 chords, started writing songs, and had some very musical neighbors in an Italian American family who were really, basically, they taught me music because they were very musical. And then when I was 18, my mum, bless her, realized I was a bit of an academic no-hoper, and through some contacts got me a job as an apprentice in a London studio. So at 18, I left school and started working in the proper music business, which is different to actually enjoying music and being in music. When you're in the music business, obviously you're getting paid to do something, and it's some disciplines you have to learn. But yeah, I was super passionate about it, and I still am. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Tell me about Astral Drive and the journey with that specifically.
Okay, so this would relate to I was a teenager in the 70s, and for everybody, in their teenage, I think music is very powerful. It's the soundtrack of our lives, to use a cliche. But for me, obviously going into music, the music that inspired me, which was a lot of kind of things like Pink Floyd. There was an American artist called Todd Rundgren. There was the Beatles, of course. There was soul music. And when I got to kind of the end of my songwriting, producing career and started making the Astral Drive records, that's what I was free to do anything I wanted to do. I wasn't signed to a deal, and I was just making music for the fun of it. So I reverted back to all those influences from the 70s that I guess you could say it was indulgent, you could say it was nostalgic, but it was actually very, to me, it was organic, and it was, it was kind of pure, because I was going back to the roots of how I'd learned how to play music, the chords, the type of songs, the singers that inspired me. And so Astral Drive became this, in some ways, a kind of, for anyone who was a teenager in the 70s, they kind of get it because it's nostalgic for those times, but hopefully fresh songs. And a kind of, the lyrics are a kind of stargazing, a bit idealistic, when you're a teenager and you think, I'm going to change the world. And so that's reflected it generally in all the songs across the 2 albums, that I'm singing. It's almost like I'm now 61, and if you reverse that, it's 16, but I'm singing songs like I'm 16 again. I think that's the nicest way to put it. It's like there's still part of me that's that kind of idealistic person that but it's not. I suppose my career in the music business, you spend a lot of time contriving things. A record company comes to you and say, we want a song for, like, for instance, there was an Australian artist called Shannon Noll, who's a big hit, maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And in that instance, his record company came to me and said, we need some songs. It needs to be maybe a bit like Bryan Adams, but poppy. He's got this kind of rock voice. And so the professional in me then goes, okay, what sort of chord changes to use, what sort of lyrical themes might be suitable. So even though you're loving making the music, there is a contrivance to it. That's why you're a professional, because you can kind of turn on the tap and go. If somebody came to me and said, can you write a song like ABBA? I would think about it for, a week or so, and listen to the records. And then you kind of get an idea of the sorts of style that it would be. Whether I can actually write a song as good as ABBA is, of course, pretty much impossible. Only those guys can do that. But so from the one hand, being able to contrive music for pop singers, which I made a living from, and I'm very happy to as well, then this Astral Drive record is sort of the opposite of that. I don't really contrive it. I just kind of, in a hippie way, just kind of let it happen. And it's very fulfilling to be at this stage of my career and kind of go like, wow, that's all still there. All that stuff I learned, all the stuff I loved, and it comes out as this, idealistic and hopefully melodic and moving, emotional music. You can be the judge of that, Nick.
Oh, mate, I think it's amazing, and I think you're incredible. I actually listened to a couple of them, and it's really good. Like, it's spot on what you said. So well done.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing.
Thanks. I try my best. Yeah.
Tell me about the songwriting too. That's really interesting. What makes a good song? So, for example, even with Natalie Imbruglia, I know that you co-wrote that. Torn. Talk to me about that. Like, how do you get the inspiration? What actually really specifically drives it?
Often, because you're a professional and the only way you can continue to succeed in the music business, in any business, is if you can find some success. And in the music business, that means having hit songs, either writing them or producing them. And if you don't have hits for a few years, the music business kicks you out the door. So that's the kind of drive was back then. Torn was written, it's got a very long story, which I'll try and keep short. There were 3 writers on the song. There was myself, Anne Previn, and Scott Cutler. And we were actually making a demo tape for Anne to, sell herself as an artist to record companies. And so the song was in a bunch of 5 or 6 that we wrote in an attempt to get her a record deal. And and initially, she wasn't successful as a solo artist. Nobody was particularly interested in the song. It's amazing to think that. Anne ended up repackaging sounds a bit cold, but she ended up becoming part of a band, a kind of cool grungy band that did the song Torn. And then that got record companies interested, because that was around a time where that was it's sort of a few years past grunge, but people still wanted that kind of rocky sound, something perhaps a bit more real. Obviously, when we made Natalie's version, which was probably the 5th or 6th version of that song recorded, it was we kind of distilled it into something that was very good suitable for radio stations across the world. It's like a hit in America, hit in Australia, hit in the UK. There's a combination of Natalie's beautiful tone, her singing tone, and then somehow that managed to let the song reach so many people. And if I knew how to do it again, I would have done it again. I've come close a few times, but with that song, you can write a song in many different ways. You can, for instance, now I tend to I sit at the piano and just let the inspiration comes through your fingers. You find a few chords, you start singing, kind of like nonsense. And then sooner or later you go like, oh, what was that? That sounded good. So that's one way of writing it, when you're by yourself with the guitar. And the other way is, which the way Torn was written, is when you sit down with two other writers, one of them may be the artist, and you try and sort of chase down the sort of song that you think is going to suit the artist's voice. That's really important. It's got to suit the artist's voice, and it's also going to suit the market. You know, what's on the radio right now. That's pretty important. Or what's about to be on the radio. You know, there's a few things in play that you try and judge. Like I say, the singer's voice. Where is the singer? Where do they sound really good? Where's the point in their voice? Like, do they need a ballad, or are they a powerful singer, or are they more of like a poetic singer, perhaps like Natalie, that needs something more subtle? And then you've got to tailor the lyrics so that hopefully they're original, but they're, you know, they touch on themes like love or romance or betrayal or heartache. You know, these are most songs you hear on the radio are to do with those themes, and you just have to see if you can find something original in that area. So there's those two different ways of writing songs. There's the more organic, perhaps, way where you write by yourself, or say Lennon and McCartney used to write sitting opposite each other and just exchange ideas and build an idea into a song. Or the other way that Torn was written, where there's three writers being quite intense and being professional, and then sometimes the magic happens and the public go, we love that record, we love that singer, we love that artist, and either buy it, stream it. And from a professional point of view, if you get one of those hits, then that means your career can last for another few years until the next one. So it's pretty, you know, music business is pretty, well, I guess it's like any business, you know, it's not cutthroat. That sounds too dramatic, but you know, you got to come up with the goods. You got to keep giving people something that they're interested in, or they'll show you where the door is, and bye-bye. So I did that for pretty much for maybe 35 years. Happy to do it. Loved it, and kept getting lucky with a hit every now and then. Somehow, and I still love music. That's an incredible thing, to come out the other side and still be feel passionate about it and interested in it. There's so much. It's just a mystery to me. I'm an uneducated musician. I taught myself pretty much, and I think even if I was educated, there's still more to learn. Different composers, different ways of writing. You know, culture keeps pushing forward new types of music, and there's always something to learn. You know, I have kids, so I've been exposed to, you know, Kanye West or Frank Ocean or cutting edge artists, and initially you go like, wow, I don't get that. Whoa. But you hear it a few times, and then you start realizing, well, yeah, there's something very powerful about it that's completely opposite to the music I loved, completely opposite to the music that my parents loved, and the revolution continues. And let's hope it keeps doing that.
Really, really insightful, and yeah, it's incredible your career. What has been actually when the hit, for example, Torn hits the radio stations and it gets on the charts, what's that feeling like, that you know that you helped process and co-wrote that? You know, that must be an incredible feeling.
It is. I still get chills if I was to hear Torn on the radio now, or any of my songs, then it's sort of weird, really, because you think you might get blasé about it, but it's still, I feel like I'm 14 again, and I'm going like, what? They're playing, I wrote that. It's on the radio. You know, there must be something wrong. It's a buzz. I don't know. Maybe if you play soccer, or like you're a striker or something, and you score a goal, in an important championship, it's such a it really is like has a physical effect on you. You even though you're professional and you're going like, yeah, I do this as a job. It's the kid in you comes back again, and you go like, wow. It's if you could bottle that feeling up, then it would sell well. But maybe that's why you keep doing why I keep trying to write songs, is because I'm still searching for that high. When even your mum or your grandma is going, oh, I heard your song on the radio today. It's an amazing communication. To think that you've reached so many people. I often talk about, when you have a home studio and you work away at producing records, writing songs, and all the time, people used to have, say, transistor radios in their kitchen, but the kids before they go to school would put on the radio and listen to, like the pop station. And it's almost like I spent my whole career I'm sitting in front of a couple of big speakers right now, and you sit here and work on the song. But what you actually want to do is make it you want the music to come out of the transistor radio speakers. You want to make it come out of your kitchen speakers, when the radio plays it, when the TV is playing it. Not so relevant today because now everybody's streaming, has got iPhone or, have their own playlists. But when radio stations were strong, it was, that was a great feeling. Yeah. And it's still a great feeling. It's a very positive high.
That's really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your favorite artists that you've worked with that really stand out for you in your career?
The artists that I've worked with that I really respect, and I guess because you're a professional, you work with all sorts of different artists, and you respect all of them. You try and bring your A game to each record or song that you write. But there are occasionally ones where, obviously, I've worked with Bryan Adams for 20 years, writing songs with him, producing him. Occasionally, I've been in the band, and there's something about his, most people know his voice. He's got this incredible voice, and it really is. He's maybe, like of the top 5 singers that I've worked with, he's definitely in the top 2. I'm not going to reveal who's number 1. It might be me, but no. I wish I had his voice. It is just, and especially if you were in the room with him when you're writing the song, he has a way of singing that's so he can almost like he's obviously got this sort of rock sound, this kind of raspy throat, but he brings such feeling to a song. He's say you write a song, and which we've done, we've written 20 or 30, and you come to do the vocal, like to do maybe you're just making a demo of it, and you go, okay, let's sing the lyrics. That he'll sing the song 3 times, and each time it will feel like it's about something completely different, because he's like an actor, I guess, with the way he sings. So he's really impressive to work with. There was a singer in the 70s who's now passed on, who was a kind of a folk, it's quite trippy too. He's called John Martin. Phil Collins, the famous Phil Collins produced a couple of John Martin's albums. And he's a very troubled soul, was quite dark, but just had the voice that was, you would be, when you're in the studio recording albums, usually the singer is singing along as a guide for the drummer and the bass player and the piano player, so they know where they are in the song. But with John, when he sang along, that's what ended up on the record. You know, when he wasn't trying, he was amazing. And when he was trying, he was just like unbelievable. And this is a gift that not many people, you know, it's like Ronaldo or Messi, or they just have this they really do have an X factor. And unlike everybody who appears on the X Factor, who, you know, they really have something that it's like a 1 in 10 million talent that they're able to communicate. So John is no longer with us. Bryan, of course, is still touring. Let's see, Darren Hayes from Savage Garden, one of, you know, Australia's biggest exports. Again, super impressive, not only as a singer, but as a songwriter. I could tell you, we've written songs together, and he has a particular, you know, very unique sounding voice, and is able to, he writes a set of lyrics for a song, which if I had to write those lyrics, it would take me a week to think about them, another few weeks to edit them, you know, to perfect them. And he does it in like 20 minutes. This goes, here it is. And you go, Jesus, how did you, excuse me, you know, like that's some kind of talent. Another person who I love working with is, there's a band called the New Radicals who had a big hit about 20 years ago called You Get What You Give. And he's similar to Darren. His name is Greg Alexander. He has this, he's one of those people like Bryan, like Darren, who just, their talent is just, yeah, it sounds kind of bland to say awesome. But occasionally, you know, as a professional, everybody works hard. We're all trying our best. Occasionally someone walks into the room and just kind of does it without trying. And you go, you bastard. So, yeah, that's a little roundup of the people that I've worked with that I've found particularly impressive. I guess, you know, there have been plenty of other singers that I've worked with, Pixie Lott, Natalie, that I could also mention, but yeah, that's in my career. The people who I've come across where you know their talent is jaw dropping. You go, this is going to be easy, you know, yeah. So, but I guess the fact that some people find it easy, there are also other artists who you work with who you know, they mean it just as much, and it can just sometimes take a bit more work to get a finished record with them than the other names I've mentioned. So wow. It's all part of being a professional, you know.
Wow, that's incredible. What are some of your key learnings, I guess, from your career? What are the things that you've learned that really stand out for you?
I think this is dangerous question there, Nick, because I think the one thing I've learned from my career is that it's good to say I don't know every now and then. You know, some people can pontificate. I have a lot of ideas about songwriting and how to do things, but at the end of the day, I'm doing my best. I'm passionate about it, but if I really knew what I was doing, you'd be singing my songs like ABBA songs or like the Bee Gees songs, you know, the Beatles, or, you know, there's some people that seem to really know what they're doing. So it's dangerous if I kind of, if I don't want to give the impression, I suppose that's what I've learned through my career is there's always more to learn. There's always more to learn. There's always more to be excited about. You know, I'm lucky to be healthy, so that's But I guess there's always, you're always thinking maybe this song, this one could be the one that is another hit like Torn. But yeah, just kind of step back every now and then and go like, I think I'm pretty good, but I'm no great shakes. There's more to learn. There's more to do.
Awesome. What's the best advice you've received in your career?
I had a boss when I started working at age 18 at this studio complex. There were 3 or 4 studios, and the boss was a really successful, the guy who owned the studios. He owned a record company, publishing company. He was an entrepreneur, an impresario. He was kind of like, the way people see Simon Cowell today, someone that really understood the whole machine. And his name was Mickey Most. He's sort of the person, maybe your parents would know the records he made with the Animals, Hot Chocolate, the Hermits, Donovan, Lulu, Kim Wilde. He had a really successful career. And one thing he could do was spot a hit song. He could, 10 writers would come in for a meeting during the day, and if they would play him their new material, and he had this magic ability to find a song that was suitable for the right artist, and in a few weeks' time it'd be on the radio. So the one thing I worked as his assistant for 2 or 3 years. And so I learned quite a few things from him. Usually, to get back to your question, he would say, just turn the singer up. It's so when you get into record production, you hear people talk about, wow, amazing drum sound. Listen to that guitar sound. But people just really want to hear the lyrics, and they want to hear the singer. And I suppose you could say they want to hear what the story of the song is. And if anything that you're producing gets in the way of that, if say you've got a guitar player who plays across every time the singer starts playing across it, that's not good. That's like, you have to kind of make records that frame the singer, so at least people listening have a chance to go like, well, that's shit, or I love it. But at least it's obvious what you're trying to do, and it's not being covered up by any other elements. So yeah, that's the best advice. Like, keep turning the singer up. Make sure, obviously, it helps if the singer sings in tune and sings in time. That's another part of a producer's role, is to get the singer to perform to, like a coach with the football team, rugby team, to motivate the players to perform so they feel comfortable, they feel like fired up, or whatever you have to do. But make sure that the singer can be heard, and the lyrics that, what you're trying to say in the song, let's get that across. Even if it's just love me do, or, or what's about Bon Jovi title, we're halfway there, living on a prayer, let's make sure everybody can hear that. And nobody's going like, what did he say? Living on a chair? It's, yeah, so that would be the best advice I got from Mickey Mouse. Turn up the singer.
Awesome. What inspires you daily? What motivates you?
That's a good question, because my partner Julie often says, like, why do you keep working? You can stop now. And it's just I'm lucky enough to have some talent, and I wake up in the morning and I can be on a bus or on a cycle ride, and a song idea just pops into my head. And I don't know why that happens. I invite it. It's not sometimes I just go, oh damn. Oh, see, sometimes it's kind of an inopportune moment. You're walking down the street in a crowded street, and you might see a sign or hear somebody say something, and then you start singing. You go like, "That's a cool phrase. Well, how would I sing that?" And you start singing, and you go, "That's actually quite good." And then the next thing, I've got my iPhone out, the little voice recorder. So you're walking down Oxford Street, hundreds of tourists going past you, and you're singing kind of sheepishly into a phone because inspiration strikes, and so that's what keeps me going. I'm really pleased that happens. That makes me feel so good that I had that when I was 13. I'd write, learn 3 chords and write a song, and then the idea would come to me, and 40 years later, it still happens. So I don't know why, I welcome it. I welcome it. Yeah. It's exciting. It's almost like being a kid at Christmas. Like when you get that initial idea, it's like unwrapping the present, if you're lucky enough to get a present, that you don't know what's inside it. You don't know. You've just got this little idea, and you might listen back to it later and go, that is really rubbish, super naff. Or you might go, oh, I know where this can go. I know what beat should go with that. Or, so it's not like I have had a couple of moments where the whole song has kind of appeared more or less in my head just at once, which is pretty magical. But usually you get like the universe sends you little segments of like ideas, and then you have to work at trying to figure out what the rest of it is trying to say. I'm making it sound a bit mystical. It's not really. It's just work. It's work. Hard work. Ain't nothing like it.
Oh, that's wonderful, mate. That's wonderful. What are your other hobbies and passions outside of music and the songwriting and that? What do you like to do in your downtime?
Yeah, we had a little chat pre-broadcast, and like most kids, as a teenager, I was pretty fast, and I don't know. I would have liked to have been a professional footballer, but as I say, I was quite, I was quick. But there was only thing, like I was fit, had a great engine, but as I say, there was only one thing I lacked, and that was ability. So, I still play. Getting back to the hobbies, so I still play five-a-side. Do you call it soccer or?
Soccer, we call it soccer.
In the US, yeah. I mean, in Australia. Yeah, so I play with a bunch of guys my age, and also some of our sons, and it's just such a, you play this format called five-a-side or six-a-side, and so I still do that. I do a lot of cycling, on a road racer. That's another big hobby. I love going out I only do that when the sun is shining, though. I'm a fair weather cyclist. I used to be a marathon runner, in fact, but I stopped, I haven't done the half. I stopped doing marathons quite a while ago, and then I stopped doing half marathons maybe 5 years ago. You start getting these messages from your knees going, no, mate, those, but I still love to play soccer. Hobbies of, I guess that they're my main hobbies. I'm addicted to the television. I guess you could call that. I'll just put Netflix on and find something. That's how I chill out. Really, and I read books. I guess that's quite. That's another way I relax. Yeah, so they're my hobbies. Yeah.
Wonderful, very wonderful. Where does the future look like for you? What are you working on?
I'm actually working. I've just finished the second Astral Drive album, and sort of doing some promotion for that. So, shows like yours, other podcasts, radio shows. But I've actually, even though Astral Drive, it is more or less a solo album. It's me playing the drums and doing the singing and playing the bass and the guitar and everything. But I'm actually I have another project which is also a solo album, which will come out under my as Phil Thornalley, which is much more in a kind of. So I'm working on that album. That's more in a kind of traveling Wilburys. I don't know if you remember that group. Kind of, it's very kind of light-hearted, more kind of like pop rock with a Beatles influence, maybe, and actually with orchestra as well. So it's quite fun to do that. It's very different from Astral Drive, which is more kind of rocky. It's much more, and the lyrics are fun. It's so that'll hopefully be released next year. This solo album, but I'm working on that now. I'm just lucky to like feel inspired to keep going. This year also, I produced an album on a friend of mine called Kazim Sultan, who's has been in bands with Meatloaf and Hall & Oates, lots of big American artists. So I produced a solo album for him. It's nice when you can, he's a friend of mine, so I tend to, the projects that I have coming up tend to be working with friends now. Record companies, I don't get the call from record companies anymore, that's kind of cool. I got the call for 35 years. I was someone they came to help them, produce their artists or write songs for them. And then, but that I could still do that. But to be honest, I got kind of burnt out with that process and started making my own, making my own music, Astral Drive or whatnot. I feel much more passionate, much more honest about that. I'm making it because I really want to. I'm lucky enough that in my career, the records that I made sold, some of them did. So there's a system in the music business where you get to what are called royalties, where you get paid, even though, say, I made a record with The Cure called Love Cats, which is now, like 35 years old, but I still, twice a year, I still get a check for the record, not a big check, by the way, but so that's one advantage of having had a successful career, is that I can now hopefully not sound complacent, but I can just enjoy myself a bit more. And as long as radio stations keep playing Torn, then that will be the case. Maybe next time we speak, I'll be driving a bus or something. But hey, whatever happens, that's cool.
I think you've got a great life, and it's amazing everything you've done and where you're already going. So Phil, thanks for coming on the podcast, mate. I do appreciate it. It's been wonderful hearing all your stories and everything you shared, and I wish you nothing but the best in your career to date and for the future.
All right, Nick, that's really kind of you. Thanks for the questions. I hope you can make some sense out of my ramblings, and hopefully see you next time when the next album is out.
100%. Looking forward to it.
All right. All the best. Cheers, everybody.